Okay, we're live. Wow. Wow. I don't even know how to start this. This is the first time we've watched the episode and immediately talked about it, so that's just fun in general. Season 2, Episode 3, HBO's The Rehearsal, starring Nathan Fielder. What did you say when it ended? You said this our boy crazy? This boy crazy?
I think he's past crazy. I think he's into bonkers.
I
think we might have gone full bonkers. I've got I know we watched it and now we're doing this. No time to think. I'm gonna ask you a question later. That question is, what is the most insane thing we've seen Nathan Fielder do in this show, The Rehearsal? Any sporadic episodes of Nathan for you?
Season 1 or 2, just in the pantheon that we have witnessed of Nathan Fielder.
Yeah, you can give it a minute. Think about it a little bit. Talk about the ep first. Summarizing this one's a little bit tough. I'm going to rearrange the pieces.
Okay. Where do you want to start?
Broadly speaking, he decides that Sully
Yes.
is he did a great job of crashing the plane the correct way. If you're going to crash the plane, you want to do it the way Sully did it.
Did he get there after the dog or before the dog?
I believe so. I think this is his central thesis.
Okay.
Sully is the model on which we should build other pilots. Now, how do we get to Sully? Well, we have to clone him. And human to human, the technology isn't there yet, so maybe we can try and lift some.
I mean, it probably is. I think there's some just a few restrictions.
Well, it's not out in the times.
Yeah.
So what he decides to do is we can take some parts of Sully's life and implant it on the pilot somehow. But before we can get there, like our best and most ethical scientists, he says we've got to test this thesis first.
And the thesis is, in this case, the thesis is nurture.
Nurture. If I can recreate...
If we're talking nature versus nurture, his theory at this time is... Because obviously we have to throw nature out for a piece of this, right? Because we can't... We haven't gotten there yet. But we're not cloning pilots.
It's not cost effective.
It's not, but that is the We're talking about cloning in this episode, period.
Nurture.
Which is hilarious. Which is the nature end of it, right? And so he takes that thesis. Yeah, totally possible. He takes that thesis and he finds a couple that has cloned their dog several times to see if the nature part is kind of out of it. That's the control. The control is that I have a dog that has the same DNA sequence as the original dog, and they're telling him this dog is not similar or looks exactly like their old dog but acts differently. And his theory is that it's due to them now living a much larger lifestyle in Colorado than when they had this first dog in a tiny little studio in San Jose. Go Sharks. So he now has this dog that he takes and he clones. He rebuilds their apartment based on archival footage of their life with this original dog. Does an impressive job building this tiny apartment with the TV on the floor. And I don't know who he hires to do these things, but they're amazing. What they did with the Houston airport and what they did with his apartment and the bar and everything they've done so far, just like you even noticed it when the couple went to the house. So like, this is the remote we had. Like, you found the remote that we had in this weird thing. And then he, of course, hires 3 different actors to play the wife and the husband. And they study from them to find their kind of like daily routine at the time so that they can have around-the-clock nurture of this cloned dog for, we find out later, 4 months. And what does he find?
Not too much. Not a heck of a lot. His success criteria is we're trying to pick out things that would match up, that would make us assume that the dog's personality, this new dog, is similar to the dog's personality of the original clone dog. And the thing that he picks out as a success criteria is if
the mother picked this out, by the way. The owner of the dog.
If the mom has a diabetic attack.
Yes.
And the dog comes up and barks and tries to go get help like a little tiny lassie, that would be similar to the way Achilles, the original dog, reacted when she had a real, actual diabetic attack.
Yes.
And so if we can recreate that, even though she's faking the attack, even though we go further and have the actors faking the attack, never gets there. Does though. They've got a cat.
3 cats, I think.
And they get the dog to jump up on the back of the couch.
To the top of the couch, which the dog has never done before, but it learned it from the cat.
And the dog learned several behaviors from the cat. So in true Nathan Fielder, what's the word? In true to his essence, his shows, he says, okay, I think we got something there.
He also... against his nature, does say, I don't think this is a very big deal, or I didn't think it was a very big deal. But then the mother of this dog, says, kind of breaks down and almost starts crying because they're like, this is very much like the old dog. This moment you're showing us is very similar and makes me feel like it's very similar to our old dog. And that had an effect on both of them, the husband and the wife. And so, yes, he does declare it kind of a success, and he knows that the next step in scientific medical experiments, once you've finished the testing on animals, is to test on people.
Well, right to yourself, right to the scientist himself. This is some true, 1700 science.
This is, yes, where he takes the risk on himself. I was basically going to say, as absurd as this premise is about to turn, he says, okay, the only way to do this is to do it with myself first. And I had to constantly keep reminding myself as this next stuff happened that the people around him are actors, because that's the only way they play along with this. It was so absurd. It starts with him in a makeup chair for a while. Well, actually, it starts with him shaving his chest, which I was like, I don't know what's happening. I had no clue where this was going. I didn't know what was going on.
And his pubis area.
Yep, he shaves himself completely. He's going Olympic swimmer.
I don't want to be blue, but he was shaving his balls.
He was shaving them balls, and he's not a non-hairy individual, which is something we learned in this episode. We see him in the makeup chair. He's getting a bald cap put on, and then while this is happening, there's a structure being erected, if you will, which we can get to later in the episode. Not the structure, the erection. But he's building this structure. We don't know what the structure is. They kind of show up from the outside. All we know is the walls are quite tall. And then the reveal.
Which is him as a baby walking in this massive door with a diaper on and nothing else, and getting ready for Betty Bye, getting ready to take a poop in his diaper and get changed.
To get in his giant crib.
To get ready to be waterboarded by a giant paper mache breast that's... This is my answer to the question I was asking her. This is the most insane thing I think he's done. This is the biggest
or just him
laugh.
Dressing up as a baby?
Him dressing that entire sequence of him
yes,
getting ready to be baby, turning into baby, getting changed. The mother is massive because
the door opening and him walking in as the baby. I lost it.
He can't shrink himself. Again, we don't have the technology.
We're not there yet.
So everything else has to be bigger, and the mom must have been, 15 feet tall.
So yes, they basically make this giant marionette that these two people are operating to open this baby. They have these ropes that come down that he hooks him down to so that she can pick him up and he can get in and out of the crib, because she at one point picks him up to put him on the gigantic changing station to change his diaper that's, I hope, artificially filled. God knows.
He's pretty method. That could have been a real poo-poo.
And then, yes, he gets breastfed by this paper mache baby or paper mache giant mother. And this is the part that made me go, you have to remind yourself that this is a comedy show, because I don't know what production person designed this breast pump setup, but you very easily could have just taken like the rubber nipple off of a bottle, like an actual baby feeding bottle, or even one for a cow that probably has a larger nipple, and put a jug of milk behind it and he sucks off it. But instead it's what looks like a giant metal nozzle that is hosing him with milk.
It's an aggressive.
It's a very aggressive fill. And he's spitting it out and trying to drink it, and it's shooting all over him. And that scene itself, that was I was like, okay, this is a comedy. This piece is just a comedy. The part that's so funny to me about that is that feels very like Borat-esque, but we're the audience instead of random people. Like that joke almost is a waste because he didn't do it in front of people.
I don't know if I've laughed so hard in this entire series or in quite some time. That was hilarious.
That whole scene when he walks out into this like sound stage that he's built of this bedroom, I immediately, and I said this while rushing, I was like, it feels like a play. It feels like there's a stage and someone is watching this happen. Like that was the part, like I thought for sure it was going to turn around and he had made this like one man, one act play of Sully Sullenberg's life. Oh, did we mention this? He's reliving Sully Sullenberger's life. I don't think we even mentioned that. He's not just going back to being a baby. He's trying to redo Captain Sully Sullenberger's life based on the book that he's read,
to get some of that sweet nurture juice, and make him and then subsequently pilots better at crashing planes good, because again, Sully did still crash the plane.
He did. Pretty hard to not crash a plane when the engine stopped working.
I could do it.
If only we had a giant simulator room to test it in. So he's recreating Sully Sullenberger's life. He's going through this book. He talks about how he gets a job at the church where he gets to chat with his crush, and this is when he's 17 and he's learning to fly. They bring a full Cessna, I think 172, into the flight simulator space that he's built so he can do a simulator in this plane, and he reenacts a flight with this teenage crush of his. And he talks about how in the book Sully Sullenberg talks about how he's clearly aroused by being in this teenage situation with someone he has a crush on, but he has to learn to focus on the safety, and this is like a compartmentalized. This is a skill he learned. I mean, you can take it from here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, right in my wheelhouse. So what he decides to do is that he needs to, again, this is nurture. This is him training to be Sully so as to crash plane good.
He says he's uncomfortable doing this in front of the
He needs to feel
actress.
that sensual experience.
Yes.
But we can't. It's 2025. We can't do that with actors and non-consenting people. So, but he's still got to have this experience as close as he can replicate it while still living within the boundaries of the moral guidelines we've established for ourselves as a society. So he does the only logical thing. He sends the girl away, replaces her with a robot, sends the crew away.
A pretty impressive animatronic
an impressive robot. Sends the crew away, replaces them with cameras, grabs himself a laptop computer, which I don't think would be
it's not true to the times. Nope.
But he grabs a laptop where he can put on.
Call that a new invention.
Pornography, and then I don't know if he masturbates to completion or just to be able to get hard, but he does come to a point of arousal while flying the fake plane. and not crashing it, and thereby learns to
Compartmentalize.
compartmentalize while he has an erection. He's still able to fly the flight simulator without crashing it, even though again he's got a raging hard on. And he does successfully do that.
He does. He successfully lands the plane. He's learned this lesson. He goes on to kind of do some older elements of life. He realizes that
married, his dad dies.
he talks about how Sully Sullenberg seems to be skipping some elements of his life. He doesn't mention his first marriage basically at all. He skips right to his second one. He talks about how he brings up, was it the word lonely? No, he brings up
Cope.
he has to
Deal
cope
with?
a lot and deal with, and he brings that up a lot in the book. And he talks about how he doesn't really ever cry. That cue takes him to having some conversations with some pilots about how they're worried that they might get their licenses, their medical taken away if they go see a therapist or complain about certain things or tell somebody they feel a certain way.
If they do a normal tackling of their own mental health, they'll have a stigma which may prevent them from flying.
And then
In
that's their
the
life
future.
and their job.
And especially in Trump's America.
Um,
So, what is that coping mechanism? Well, maybe it's my favorite coping mechanism, listening to an album on your iPod.
which Nathan makes the connection that all of a sudden around 2001 or 2000, in the book, Sully all of a sudden starts talking about music and mentioning music a lot in different songs. And it's right about the same time the iPod gets launched. And so he reenacts a scene that is not from the book, where it's Sully in the airport,
Purchasing his iPod.
not just purchasing an iPod, buying it from essentially a music drug dealer, if you will.
Oh, I thought that was just one of those kiosks in the airport where they
It
sell,
definitely
like, the
was,
headphones
but the
and-
language from
Oh,
the
okay. Yeah.
the
Got it.
person in the planet was like, everybody's doing it, man.
Yeah.
Like
music. Everyone's
music is
doing it.
everything.
What do you think about music?
I think music's phenomenal. I
I'm-
listen to music,
I'm also for
I
it.
would say probably 4 hours a day, if not more.
Have you read Sully's autobiography?
I have not. I'm probably going to now.
Really? You're doing the work. You're in there doing
you
the
gotta
work.
do the work. You got to get in, do the work.
He surmises
Nathan does the work.
from Sully's autobi that Evanescence is his favorite band because it is mentioned more than any
He
other
mentions that song
bands.
several times. He mentions the song is about coping with your feelings.
So the song specifically "Bring Me to Life"
Yep.
off of the Evanescence album. I believe it's called "Fallen."
I wouldn't know. I don't know if I know.
Are you trying to front like you weren't
No.
an Evanescence boy?
I loved that song. I don't know if I could name another Evanescence song, but I in no way am saying that as in I was too cool for Evanescence. I
Track
was way
4
into
was
it.
good. I like track 4. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I'd have to. I probably, if you played it for me, I probably know it. I am in no way saying no. I knew I'm too cool to. I listened to Nickelback in high school. I'm not fronting that I am. I just don't
You
know.
don't have to out
I
yourself
don't know.
that far.
It's too late. We'll edit it out.
Okay, perfect. Really out on that.
For the
ledge.
listeners, I edit nothing. That's too much work.
And the Evanescence song comes in at the end. So of course, with all this recreation, we do have to get to the recreation of the actual crash.
Yeah.
Which he goes through and does, and makes a
I think
point.
he does it several times.
It looks like it does appear that he does it several times. You do want to get it right.
Props to the co-pilot for playing it perfectly over and over and over again.
He's an actor. He's just doing his
He's
job.
doing it, and
so.
yeah, but he's doing it well. Not everybody who does their job does it well. That guy did it good.
And he keys in on 23 seconds of silence as ground control is trying to talk to Sully to confirmed that he is in fact going to land this plane in the Hudson River. His co-pilot has given him some tips or questions and trying to engage with him, but Sully's not talking at all for 23 seconds. And according to Nathan Fielder, we have not had time, although I assume you'll do this as well.
We could do this homework. This feels like a you homework, though.
These 23 seconds just happens to be the amount of time of the chorus to that Evanescence song, Bring Me to Life, which was, I think, my third biggest belly laugh of the ep.
Yeah, when we discover this, because the connection, the effort he makes to do certain things, when you place it next to the mental gymnastics he does to make connections, is what makes it so humorous sometimes. He has to put this entire premise together where he finds a cloned dog, he builds an apartment, he has 3 sets of actors so that he can train this dog around the clock for 4 months, and then he goes 23 seconds, Evanescence,
Bingo bango.
bingo bango, I got it. And then he extrapolates from there, and the juxtaposition of those two things in this show is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, the absolute meticulousness to recreate that apartment, to have that who knows if they actually did 4 months. I'm going to take them at their word. They did 4 months around the clock,
which he says in the most monotone yet still frustrating I've ever heard him in the show.
But then he will just take the leap of pilots are stressed, they need a coping mechanism. He has an iPod, he mentions Evanescence, Bring Me to Life.
And then he does this recreation where the co-pilot's trying to talk to him. He's popped in his headphones, he knows he's like crashing, he's listening, which you remember this particular premise, which I love. I don't know how quickly you could get to Evanescence and scroll, do your little wheel to get, I guess if he's listened to that song a lot.
I could do it very quickly.
Okay.
But that's because I'm #good at the game.
Fair enough. So
I gotta imagine Sully, if he can land the plane on the river, can dial
probably
up
can
his
spin
favorite
it up.
song on.
So he pulls up his favorite song.
And this is back when they only had 1,000 songs on the iPod.
Yep.
So it's not like mine that has like 40,000 songs. That's much more difficult.
Hits the scroll wheel till it goes to the chorus. He's rocking out to the chorus. The co-pilot definitely gives him a little, what are you doing? The chorus finishes. He takes off the headphones, asks the co-pilot if he had any suggestions, and then proceeds to land the plane in the Hudson.
What is the lead singer or any of the band members of Evanescence? What
Amy
are they
Lee.
thinking? What's Amy thinking right now about this? He's just getting a phone call. Hey, you got to watch this show.
You say that she's on tour.
She's on tour. No, okay. What'd she think about this?
Do you think there's a rehearsal bump?
Certainly in the Zeit. Yeah, certainly she's going to be mentioned in the Zeit.
Well, I'll report back next week. I will Google this. I'll put this on my homework list too.
Perfect.
Maybe I'll have to reach out to her.
Okay. Or her publicist, at least.
Someone who answers an email. I have a podcast of literally listener, and I'd like to get your comment on the following television show. At this point, he does what he does best, where he gets serious for a moment, and he starts showing clips of the pilots that he's been talking to. He says, of all the projects he's worked on, this got the most outpouring. And when he talks to these pilots, they tend to want to talk about their lives, not actually talk about being pilot.
Yeah, they say it's a little bit of a lonely existence.
On the road, working.
On the road.
I found that part very curious and very good.
Yeah.
And clearly the connection he's starting to make here, which God knows where he'll go from here in the next episode, is that maybe there needs a little more mental support, and maybe they all have their own coping mechanisms. And in the case of Sully Sullenberg, it was the music. They found his iPod in the floor of the airplane. submerged underwater.
No way to tell what it was playing at the time.
No, and
It's all waterlogged.
I have a feeling that if he reached out, Sully Sullenberg said, "I am not interested in talking about this." But I don't know if that actually happened. He didn't mention at all whether he tried to reach out. I don't think after seeing this episode, I'd say yes to an interview either. After watching someone trying to recreate my life. And then he does this reenactment of Sully going in to talk to a therapist.
He finally gets the help that he needs. Because this whole time, if we've learned nothing else, it's that Sully was insane.
Yeah, that's not Nathan Sully. This is not all an analogy for Nathan Fielder's struggle with his mental health. Well,
Stay gold.
upwards and onwards.